Hi, I'm Claire Atherton. My guest for this episode of Beating BDD is Rachel Moore. Rachel lived with the disorder for decades before being diagnosed in her late 30s. In this conversation, she talks candidly about the roots of her BDD, how it affected her relationships and confidence, and the steps she took to recover. Today, Rachel lives a full and enjoyable life, which includes performing in a band and volunteering with the BDD Foundation. As with any episode touching on mental health, some of what Rachel shares may be difficult to hear, so if you're struggling, do come back to the episode when you feel able. This podcast is funded through the Big Give campaign. Thank you to our champion sponsor Jack and our community sponsors Ori UK, the Nightingale Hospital and Blonde's Fine Art. You'll find more about our sponsors in the show notes. Hi Rachel, thank you so much for joining us on Beating BDD. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hi Claire, thank you for having me. I'm good today, thank you.
Great. So let's just get straight on into the interview. So the interesting thing about you is that you suffered from BDD for quite a long time, didn't you? So 30 years before you finally got diagnosed, or around 30 years before getting diagnosed around 10 years ago. So how do you think that experience of living with the disorder for so long has shaped the person that you are?
So I got diagnosed in my 30s, so a long time living with it. So I think probably it's one of those things that I can look at it as a bit of a double-edged sword, where it has been a horrendous experience in sort of like that earlier part of my life, but it's definitely shaped the person that I am. So I think because of the BDD, I know throughout my life I've used a lot of humour to get through situations. So I like to think I'm a funny person. I don't know if my husband and son would agree with me, but
I'm sure
definitely definitely use a lot of humour. I also think it's made me a very empathetic person, and because of the things that I've been through in my life, I've naturally been very drawn to helping people. So I train people. That's my day to day. I'm a learning development specialist. I'm a coach. I'm a mental health instructor. I'm a mental health first aider. I volunteer for the BDD Foundation and for another charity as well. And just always there for people who need to talk to somebody. I seem to be one of those people that people are naturally drawn to just chat and let me know all their problems. No, that's good for me. I like being that person. So I think definitely it's made me a humorous person. It's made me a very empathetic person, and I think that's kind of how it's kind of shaped who I am throughout my life.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you had to create an empathy CV, I think yours would be very, very busy, full of evidence, as you just described. So that's fantastic. So obviously you are doing a lot better today. That's why you're talking to us. But if you had to pick a couple of examples that show how far you've come with your BDD, what would you choose?
I guess a couple of things that really stand out to me that I never thought I would be doing even 10 years ago. I'm in a band, so I've been out gigging and really putting myself out there. So being on a stage or being in front of people, with people looking at me and watching the band. So that's been a huge thing for me. I never would have imagined I would have done that even like I say 10 years ago. I think also being a trainer, so actually training people, whether that's standing up in front of a massive room of people or it's training people online where I've got to have sort of like my face on camera and everything. Again, that's not something that I ever imagined I would do. So I think there are a couple of things that really, really stand out that I go back to sort of like my teenage self, even in my 20s, I just wouldn't have imagined doing anything like that. I'm really, really putting myself out there in the public eye.
Yeah, and actually they both seem like it's almost like you're doing ongoing exposure therapy each time you do one of those things. I mean, do you view it like that?
I do, yeah. I think Well, I'm one of those people that's very much I do have a real sort of just do it drive and attitude and just go for it. I'm never one to do a bit of a half-assed job. I just, if I'm going to do it, I'll just put myself out there and go for it. And I think doing those things constantly actually really helps keep that recovery in check, because I don't really have a chance to think about anything. So it's just doing that. You're right, it is constant exposure therapy all the time, and I'm okay with that. That's good for me.
Brilliant. And how would you describe your life in general now, and the role that appearance plays in it?
So I think my life now, I have a very full life. So I have a teenage son, a lovely husband, a lovely circle of friends, absolutely love my job. Really, my life is full to the max. I think things like I used to use makeup as a camouflage. So that sort of like was a real coping mechanism, a camouflage. But actually, I enjoy wearing makeup now. So rather than hiding behind it, I love being colourful and things like that. I if you saw me, I've got very colourful hair. So I always have pink, purple hair. I'm covered in tattoos, kind of like from head to toe. But I have these things because I enjoy them. Whereas in the past, it would have been sort of like a form of camouflage or sort of like a real protective thing for me.
That's such a positive shift. It's a mindset shift, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So what would you like to tell us then about your BDD story, beginning at the beginning?
Yeah, so I can talk from the beginning, from when I can first remember BDD sort of rearing its head, and I guess I can really think about when I was at primary school. So I can remember being picked on for the way that I looked. I think kids are cruel. I absolutely can look back and recognise that. Kids are mean, but I did used to get picked on a lot for how I looked. So whether it was being called, chicken legs, or being told constantly that I looked tired all the time. And I can look back now and go, yeah, that's where the real focuses of certain areas really, really started. I think as well, my parents, as well meaning as they were by saying things. So I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and my sister she's absolutely lovely, absolutely beautiful, stunning. But well, when we were growing up, I was more academic, so used to get told a lot, your sister's the pretty one and you're the clever one. And although that was kind of like a real throwaway comment, and they probably didn't even think how that might sink into my brain, that again had like a real profound effect on how I saw myself. Like, oh well, I'm not the pretty one then. So that's kind of as far back as I can remember. So that was at primary school. And then I went to secondary school. The bullying continued. I got called horrific names at secondary school. I can remember incidences of being called like an ugly dog. You're never going to get a boyfriend. Told that I looked tired all the time. So I'm very, very lucky. Again, thanks to my parents. I have hereditary like dark circles under my eyes. Nothing I can do about that. Yeah, thank you so much, Mum and Dad. But obviously being told that I look tired all the time. And I can remember just keeping myself covered up constantly. I used to put thick foundation on. I can look back now and go, oh, I was orange most of the time, because when I was a teenager, we didn't have the best quality makeup in the world. It's so much better now, the makeup and how teenagers put it on. But yeah, I kept covered up, thick makeup. It would be the middle of summer, really hot summer, and I would be in jeans all the time because I didn't want to get my legs out because of that sort of like real self-consciousness. Looking in the mirror a million times a day. So, being called vain a lot because I just had to keep checking, making sure that I was sitting at certain angles so people weren't looking at me at a certain angle. So yeah, it just carried on. So like from that primary school into my teenage years. So that's kind of how I can remember it manifesting so much around that sort of period of my life. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a very delicate time for anyone, I think. That's particularly if you're plagued by these sorts of thoughts. So you talked about the coping mechanisms you use, the behaviours that you carried out. But did you ever talk to anyone about how you were feeling? Did you ever tell anyone in the family or one of your friends?
No, not at all. I think I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how I felt, and my teenage brain was so muddled up and all over the place. And again, even into my 20s, I didn't understand what this was. So I just kept everything inside, kept it all hidden. I didn't really have that kind of relationship with my parents, my family, that I could have those conversations and say, oh, I feel like this, because I didn't understand it. I didn't have a grasp of what sort of like poor mental health was or anything like that, because it wasn't really talked about a lot in sort of like the early 90s. This would have been, so it's a very I hear, so like my grandparents have said before, it was a different time back then, and now I'm saying it about when I was younger, but it was a different time. It really was. Mental health was not recognised like it is today.
And that's so true. And was there a rock bottom point with your BDD? And if so, when was that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a combination of, the BDD, OCD, which I know that I have OCD now as well. So I had OCD, BDD. What an awesome combination that is, I have to say.
Another winner.
But also I had a lot of other stuff going on in my teenage years. I moved schools a lot of time. I was bullied, had really hard family circumstances, and all of that just came to a head. And in my early teens, I did attempt suicide. So it was that was absolutely a rock bottom time. I can still remember it so vividly. But that was probably absolute rock bottom for me in that period.
Did that kickstart any help for you at all? Or are we, as we were just saying, it was such a different time, wasn't it? And the structures weren't there.
The help wasn't there at all. So as I say, I was a very young teenager, and I was taken into hospital, and I was put onto an adult ward because they didn't really know what to do with me. And the help that I got at that time was the day after I'd been admitted into hospital and had treatment. A nurse came round. She said to me, "How are you feeling today?" And at that point, I wasn't feeling great, so I just said, "Not feeling great." So her response and the help that I was given was, "Well, you won't try that again then, will you?" And that was literally it. There was no follow up, like no help, not like we would get today, just absolutely nothing.
It's terrible.
Scary.
Gosh. Amazing that you sort of came back and went back to school and sort of picked up where you left off, really. I mean, how do you think you were able to do that?
Pure determination, I think, just determination and stubbornness, and I just needed to get through that and pass my exams and go on to the next stage of my life.
So what was that stage? So did you leave school at 16, was it?
Yeah, left school at 16. I went to college. I wanted to get out of my home environment as soon as I could, and got into a relationship that I shouldn't have been in at all. Got married very, very young. Very nice person, so I can't speak badly of him, but it was a combination of thinking that no one else is going to want me, and grasping at the first person that showed me that affection and care and everything. And I think that just kind of kick-started a period of sabotaging relationships, being very insecure, being very jealous, comparing myself to other people, being convinced that they're looking at other people constantly, and as I say, just never really believing anything anyone said, but just really grasping at any affection that anyone would show me at all. So it was a very, very confusing and self-sabotaging time, I think, around that time.
Oh, sounds like it. And did you continue with the same behaviours that you'd started in school as well, all the checking and the foundation and covering up and things?
Yeah, I think it was probably to a lesser extent. I know that I still did it, but I think the BDD manifested more in emotionally rather than the physical side. So it was more about that sort of real comparing and, that jealousy side. So I know that absolutely I was still checking, still covering up, and things like that. But it definitely manifested more in the emotional side than the physical side.
And then you did meet your now husband, didn't you? Who sounds like such a nice man. Did that help? I mean, or did you find that behaviours kept going and your feelings didn't actually change about yourself?
Yeah, so I met my husband, oh gosh, I'm just trying to think when it was, 2014, I believe. Yes, because we got
Okay.
married in 2015.
Yeah.
So and he has been absolutely amazing. I think he's I don't know what it was. I met him and instantly felt very secure, very trusting. And I don't know if it was my mindset was changing, but he's been so incredibly supportive, reassuring, which isn't always the best thing for BDD when I'm seeking reassurance. But he reassures me, but not in a way that I want to hear. It's coming from a place of like honesty, truth, and he's fantastic. As I say, he's never given me any reason to not trust him, and he's put up with my any sort of like little inklings of jealousy that might come out. But he actually knew I had BDD before I did, which was really interesting because when I was diagnosed and kind of sat down with him and said, I think I have BDD, his response was pretty much, no shit. That's his exact words. He just said, no shit, you don't say. So he recognized that, he knew, and I know that he'd said it to me a couple of times previously, like, I think you have BDD, but again, I didn't really know enough about it at that point to sort of like really investigate and learn a bit more about it. But no, he's absolutely my rock, and he's really helped me through a lot of situations over sort of like the last I was going to say 10 years, but 12 years we've been together for now. That's gone quick.
How did you go about getting this diagnosis? How did you realise that's what you were suffering with?
So I actually trained at work to become a mental health first aider. The opportunity came up, so I went for it and had 2 days of training, and we were given this massive manual about all different mental health conditions. And I can remember reading it on the train, and I got to a bit about OCD and BDD. They were kind of like in together, and I started to read it, and I just went, this sounds a lot like me. So me being me, what I love doing is I love then investigating and reading more. So I looked a bit more, investigated, saw the website that had loads of information, and just went, oh, okay, I need to look into this a bit more. So we have a really good employee assistance program at work. So I called them, managed to be put through to a really, really good therapist who was fantastic. And that kind of like started that process of being diagnosed with OCD and BDD. And I think at the time I wasn't overly shocked. I think part of me knew that this was the answer, but actually it was so good. I know a lot of people don't like labels, but actually it was so good for me to suddenly sit there and go, oh, okay, so I'm not just weird. I'm not vain. I'm not crazy. Well, I am my own little way, but it was just so it was so nice to actually have that label and then be able to really look at the support and everything that I kind of needed to go from there to like really start that recovery journey.
I mean, that's the exact effectiveness and usefulness of labels, isn't it? It's exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
It points you in the right direction for the sort of support that's going to help you.
Absolutely.
What then did you do to start tackling your BDD?
So I'd love to say that I went and got lots of therapy and contacted someone, but actually, I think so. Being a mental health first aider and a mental health instructor, I honestly think that sometimes we're the worst at taking our own advice, and I actually prefer doing things myself in a way. So I probably had a very different recovery journey to a lot of other people that I've spoken to that have BDD, whereas actually I went and investigated myself. I went onto the BDD Foundation website. I looked up all the different methods of like how to deal with this, the exposure therapy, and I actually did that myself. So I did it myself. But again, just remembering that actually I was dealing with OCD and BDD at the same time, and I'd had unfortunately I'd had a bereavement as well, which had kind of really sort of like ramped everything up. So it was a lot of self therapy, but that really worked for me. And I think this is the great thing with recovery with any mental health condition is it's not one size fits all. So something that will work for one person, maybe joining a support group or having therapy or medication or something, might not work for other people. So I just love the whole thing around recovery, that it's not linear, it's so different for every single individual. And that's what worked for me. That's like real self-guided therapy, and going, oh, exposure therapy, this sounds like fun, let's try that. So I know it's not that easy for everybody, but as I said, I've got a real just do it drive, and just wanted to get out there and see what I could do to help that recovery.
Yeah, I mean, I was struck when you talked earlier about this just do it aspect, that sort of level of motivation, self-motivation, and also the word stubbornness really jumped out at me. But those are very useful characteristics. And when it comes to like hand therapizing yourself, self-therapizing. So yeah, great work. Did you have any particular strategies that you found useful from all the things you read and all the things you tried?
I definitely think the exposure therapy was great. I think the Overcoming Body Image Disorders book, and so I read through that, and the exposure therapy bit really stood out to me. So I did do little things like going to the shops without makeup on, and posting. It's a joke now in my family that I post so many selfies on social media, but again, it's not for that like real reassurance bit. It's because I'll take a picture and go, hey, I like how I look in this picture, so I'm quite happy to put that on social media, like for my band or something like that. So it was a lot of exposure therapy, taking pictures, telling myself that, you look nice in this picture. That's a nice picture of you, and making sure that I got as many pictures with my son as I could, because I don't have many pictures of me when I was a child with my parents. So I really wanted those memories of good times that we were having together. And I think one of the things that I really tried doing with photographs, which was a really good part of my recovery, was when I would look at a photo, I wouldn't look at it and go, oh, I can see this in my face and I can see this. I would look at a photo and go, oh, I remember exactly what I was doing that day, and it was so much fun. We had the best day that day. So really trying to reframe things. So I think the exposure therapy and reframing was sort of like really, really useful and powerful tools for me on that recovery journey.
Yeah, I mean, the reframing one is really interesting. I think that is something that you do try and do if you go through therapy, VTD. It's exactly what you did. It's that idea of just because it's a bad photo doesn't mean it was a bad day. It was a bad photo of a great day. And actually, what do you want to remember? The experience was amazing. The picture of that experience. Okay, this is all really impressive. When you said little things like going to the shop without makeup, I think a lot of people will be listening. Well, that's huge. So well done. It's brilliant. So it also sounds as if you went from knowing nothing about BDDs to being quite an expert into it. Have you discovered anything particularly interesting along the way as you've learnt more and more about the disorder?
I'm always fascinated, and I love learning more about BDD because that helps me to help other people as well. And I think one thing that I did find really interesting, and I know there was some research being done. I haven't seen any up to date research. Was around things like tattoos and piercings and the the what's the relationship with BDD, where there are a lot of females who have BDD who will get excessive tattooing done to sort of take the focus off of them. And I found that so fascinating because I have a lot of tattoos. So I literally have full arm sleeves, I have tattoos all down my legs. And I think when I first started getting the tattoos, it was a way to take the focus off of me. So rather than someone looking at me, they would look at my tattoos and start a conversation about that. So I find that really fascinating, and I'd love there to be more research, or see if there's more research around that. And I think as well, as I said to you, I've always had very colourful hair, but again, I used to colour my hair. Someone said to me once that, oh, you get your hair coloured so everyone looks at you. And I was like, well, actually, it's the opposite. I want them to look at my hair and not at me. And it's just such a interesting conversation. And I think as well, through doing the mental health training, we've talked about excessive tattooing but being a type of self-harm as well, which I find absolutely is fascinating. So all little things like this I find so interesting, and I'd love to see more research on that as well. Yeah, I think everything that I learn about BDD, I really soak it all up like a sponge, because I'm such an advocate for talking about it. I'm very open with my friends, my family, my colleagues, really talking to them about what BDD is and how they can help with it and everything. So really spreading that message so that it's such a misunderstood condition, and I think people only hear about it if they see maybe a celebrity in the news, where someone will say Katie Price, for example. She comes up quite a lot as having BDD, and there's just such a lack of understanding. So I just love soaking it all up so that I can share like learnings with people, and also helping with like the focus groups and the support groups as well. That's really, really important.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that next, actually. So the work you're doing with the BDD Foundation, what are you getting from that particularly?
Oh, it's just amazing. And I think I got into it by accident, like a brilliant accident, that, an advert came up on my social media, and I sat there and went, could I do that? Could I lead the support groups? Could I be a facilitator for this? So I signed up for it and haven't looked back. I think the BDD Foundation, the support they give the facilitators is absolutely amazing, and I've learned so much. But actually, it's kind of really helped with my own therapy, running the sessions as well, because I think a lot of the facilitators have been on the program and I didn't. I'd come in fresh, just like, oh, let's see what this is about. And for me, each session that I ran, it helped me as much as it helped the people that were coming along for the support. And it's just been such an amazing experience. I think just the first few sessions, just being in a virtual room of people who got it and they just understood, I think that was such a big thing. But also at the end of sort of like the 20 weeks, just seeing the shift in people and just seeing them thinking about things differently, accepting who they are. And I think along the way, you'd start off on week 1 and no one would have their cameras on, and you'd go along that 20 weeks and you'd start to see people putting cameras on and getting that confidence. And for me, it was just amazing. I would go away from some sessions crying, but with happiness, because I'd just sit there and go, wow, like we've really helped this person, and it's just utterly amazing. So it's helped, those sessions have helped me as much as they've helped the people coming on them. But it's such an amazing thing that the charity do. I can't sing their praises enough, to be honest. Fantastic team.
It is. It's fantastic, isn't it? But also, I guess I mean, do tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but I imagine that if you're getting so much out of this experience of helping other people, is that also taking some of the power of the appearance focus away? You see what I mean? Because then it becomes about what you're doing as a person for other people. Does that make sense?
I think you're right then. It's not putting words into my mouth at all. I think, it is more about what other people are getting from it, what knowledge and healing we can sort of like help them with as well. And yeah, definitely it stops being about the appearance and it starts being about, that real shift and just helping people.
Yeah, the value you can offer people, the immense value you've got to bring to those sorts of situations. Yeah. You mentioned when we spoke before that sometimes you'll hear the BDD voice, the bullying voice, but you'll talk back to it. Can you give me some examples of what you might say?
So I guess
Typically.
I do swear at it sometimes, but I think it's really telling it to shut up. So as I say, I am in a band, and sometimes we do get very glammed up to go out and gig and play, and I'll spend ages getting ready. And again, not about camouflaging, it's about wearing makeup because I love wearing makeup and looking like an 80s rock chick. And then I'll make myself look great, and then I'll get a glimpse in the mirror and have that little self-doubt on my shoulder suddenly going, oh, you haven't put enough concealer on or something. And then I'll look again and go, do you know what? I look awesome. I'm very sparkly and colourful, so you can shut up tonight. Like, I don't care. Just shut up. So it's a lot of telling it to shut up and, looking in the mirror and going, you are enough. You look absolutely fine. So yeah, it's a lot of swearing at that little voice, and telling it to bugger off. But yeah, telling it to shut up a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also talked before about that. Sometimes it can be hard to gauge when you're starting to feel so much better. What's just a normal level of insecurity and what's tipping over into BDD? Are you able to identify that tipping point, would you say, a bit better now?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think one thing that I realise now, especially talking to friends, and as I said, I've got a wonderful sister, is that nobody is happy with how they look. Like it's interesting. It's that age old thing of, if you've got straight hair, you want curly hair. If you've got curly hair, you want a straight hair. But nobody is ever 100% happy with how they look, and that's okay. That is fine, and that's normal. And I know that I, like any woman probably, I'll go, oh, I don't like that, or I don't like that, but I don't obsess over it, so I don't have that real sitting down for ages. But I will notice when it gets to that tipping point. So I had a really traumatic year last year. So I lost my mum, sadly, and a few weeks later I broke my arm. And it took a lot away from me. So I couldn't play my bass guitar, I couldn't drive, I couldn't exercise. And there was a lot of time kind of sitting around, grieving, feeling so like mentally drained. And then all of a sudden I could feel those obsessions coming back in. I could feel those feelings coming back in, and I would sit and look at the mirror, and I wouldn't tell that little voice off. I would let it creep in. And I think that's when I know that I've got to that tipping point, because when I don't tell the voice to shut up, that's when I know that tipping point's coming along. But I did take my own advice at that point. I did reach out and I did speak to somebody, and managed to tell that voice to go away again. But I think I've got very good at recognising when that voice is coming in and being able to reach out for help now and actually talk to somebody, because I know that will make it better.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. If you could go back, Rachel, and talk to your 13-year-old self, what would you say to her?
Oh, first of all, I'd give her a massive hug. I'd give her a big hug and say, I know it sounds so cheesy, but I would say, you're going to be okay. You will be okay. And, yeah, I would definitely tell her that she is loved. She might not feel like she's loved, but she is loved, and life will work out amazingly. I won't spoil the surprises to her and tell her she's going to have an amazing son and amazing friends and an amazing husband. But yeah, I think I would wrap her up in a big hug and just say, you're going to be okay.
That's lovely. And finally, what would you say to listeners who are really struggling at the moment with the disorder?
I would say, it's not easy, and I absolutely get that, but there is help out there. And even when you feel at your absolute lowest, there's always somebody there to talk to, and there is people out there that understand what you're going through. So if you're really struggling, please do reach out. The BDD Foundation has some amazing resources, so much information. And I think one thing that I would absolutely say is, talk to a loved one, talk to a friend or a family member, and, really get them to understand how you're feeling, because I think the power of talking to somebody is so, so powerful and can make such a big difference.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rachel. I really enjoyed chatting to you, and thank you so much for joining us and coming to share your story.
Thank you, Claire.
Take care. Thanks so much to Rachel for sharing her story so openly and for the work she does helping others through the BDD Foundation and beyond. For more episodes, search for Beating BDD on major podcast apps or on Spotify, and follow the BDD Foundation on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. I'll be back with another interview next month. Until then, remember this podcast isn't therapy, so please do seek help from a trained professional if you need it. Thanks for listening.